Thank you for joining us. My name is Eva Bak, and I'm the Vice President of People here at Bak USA. Today I'll be moderating a conversation with 3 local women who work in STEM fields. Our topic, how to close the gender gap for women in the workplace. Joining me is Samantha Pierce, our Public Relations Specialist, who will also be participating in the conversation. Our panelists include Ciara Rayshall, an entrepreneur and writer for the Crafty Jawn, a mobile app that connects women with their faith, their families, and each other. Lena Levine, founder and creative director at Lena Levine Studio, a web design company, and the founder of Girl Develop It, a nonprofit organization that provides affordable programs for adult women interested in learning web and software development in a judgment-free zone. And Maiko Tanaka, the executive director at Squeaky Wheel, a film and media arts center that offers education, equipment access, and exhibition programming to explore film and digital media. Ladies, thank you for taking your time to speak with us today. Before we get started, I'm wondering if anyone would like to tell us in just a few sentences why this issue is so important to you.
Well, I'd like to speak from my personal experience. When I moved to Buffalo almost 9 years ago, I started checking out different tech meetups in the area, and at the time I was learning web development on my own, and I was trying to find different resources and connect with the developers in the area. And what I found out at the moment that wherever I would go, I was the only woman in the room, and I wasn't sure what was going on. It felt a little bit intimidating because most of the developers that were attending meetups were experienced, and sometimes I didn't feel comfortable asking questions. And I started thinking, am I the only woman in Buffalo who's interested in coding and writes the code? And when I came across organization Girl Develop It, for me it was such a great moment of happiness, knowing that there are other women out there that working on connecting with women in the community and providing programs and classes to help women to learn coding and just to connect women with one another. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to bring it to Buffalo, and I didn't know if anyone will attend or not, but it proved to be a great decision, one of the best decisions that I ever made. And now we're up to 800 members on our meetup page, and we celebrating 5-year anniversary this March. And so for me, talking about issue of gender gap in tech field and bringing more women on board is very close to my heart. I think we really need to engage as many people as possible and bring on board men and women to work together on this topic to bring more diversity in the in this field. And it's not even just about the gender, but just bringing more diversity in the tech field and hearing all sides of the story and just trying to provide the paths to success for as many people as we can.
Perfect. And can I have a follow-up question? Where did you move from?
I moved from Russia.
From Russia. Okay.
Yes.
When you said Girl Develop IT has been, or is it or IT?
It's like Girl Develop It.
Girl Develop It. So it's been 5 years.
5 years in Buffalo, yeah.
And you've already grown to 800 members.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of the same feedback from a lot of your members that are joining, that they have been looking for this type of group, this kind of culture that accepts women and is accepting and wants to teach women and empower women? Do you find that a lot?
Yeah, that's like one of the first things that we hear. Women like, oh my God, I've been looking, for you guys for so many years. We're so happy that you guys exist, and we just generally women are really excited to connect with the organization, the community, and they really feel like they're in their element. And it's it's always great to meet like-minded people, and being women in tech field, it's very often feels very lonely. Even though we've seen a lot of great trends in the recent years where more and more women join the tech field, it's still very common that women are usually just the only woman developer in their team. And having that community and just I didn't have a girlfriend who was interested in coding until I was 25, so I couldn't even talk to my own girlfriends about hey, this is a cool website that I built, or this is a learning, like the language that I'm learning right now. And just having this opportunity to make friends and connect with people it's so rewarding.
And Michael, you're with Squeaky Wheel, and you guys have been running a program called Tech Arts for Girls since 1999. So this issue has to be kind of close to you as well. Do you want to talk about it?
Definitely. So in a way, Tech Arts for Girls is a program that I wish I took when I was a kid. So I'm a director of a media arts center. It's a nonprofit that tries to provide access to technology and provide spaces for experimentation. And I came to that really roundabout way, not because I was interested in technologies when I was younger, but through art making. I met a lot of people making really interesting artworks, videos, films, experimental installations, things that are immersive or interactive, using virtual reality or augmented reality, so many things. And but then I realized, after working in this field for so many years, there are lots of women working in media art and art and technology, but it is predominantly usually a male audience or cultural support spaces that are mostly male or predominantly male. So with our program, Tech Arts for Girls, and also the fact that we exhibit many women and women of color and people from different identities to present work, screenings, talks, exhibitions, and teach workshops too. That helps on the representational level too, for young women to take our classes and see themselves sort of in the future. All our Tech Arts for Girls classes are taught by women living in Buffalo, or if they are visiting for an artist residency through our programs. And they are for girls aged 10 to 17. And a lot of them are come every year. They take it all year long and until they graduate. But anyone can drop in and take a class. They're about they happen on Saturday mornings, and all throughout the year. So, yeah.
What about you, Ciara? What inspired you? Because you come from a non-traditional tech background.
Very
so you want to talk about that a little bit and kind of what inspired you to create this app? And I don't want to give it all away, but that's designed to empower women.
It kind of happened by accident, if I would be honest. I've always been a creative, and I know for me, growing up in my family and our demographic, creativity is never seen as doing something out of the box. It's only like you only look at it as like, oh, if you're an artist, or we don't even really view music as something, oh, that's being super creative. That's just a talent. So I've always been super creative, and I'm a writer. And I decided one day, I was sitting in my room and I was just like, you know what? I want to be able to write. I want to be able to create. I want to be able to talk to females, meet new females, learn about females, about what drives them crazy, what inspires them. But I want to be able to do it all under one umbrella, because I felt like since I'm so creative, I'm all over the place. I'm doing so many different things. And then a light bulb kind of just hit. I'm like, I'm always on my phone. Everybody's always on their phone. So what would I personally felt like it would be an easy way to capture people than to take an untraditional route to kind of like the blog, which is only on web, or you can go to it online, but it's not like in your face. You're not really in that person's pocket. That person has to go to it. So I started doing my research, and they said that mobile apps are like it like right now. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I went to a mobile app workshop. I didn't know anything about it. I was so intimidated, and all I had was my creativity. That's all I had. I was just like, hey, I got this idea. This is what I want to do. I want to be a writer. I want to engage with new women. I want to help women. I want to emphasize faith. I want to emphasize all these great ideas. How am I going to do it with this app? And then I sat with some developers, and they really were like, you know what? This is possible. You can do it. And they started to teach you about coding and about being a developer. And I learned so much about what data is and how data is currency. And these are things that I've never known before. I've never researched before, but just being honest and saying like, hey, I have the creative side of it. How do I take it and make it mobile and take it and turn it into something that is very, I don't know if the word I'm using the proper word, something that is very heavy and precedent in our society today, which is mobile transactions. So it kind of happened on accident, but I'm so happy that it did, because now I'm learning something for my family. I know about coding, you know, on a small scale, but data and app stores and developing and stuff, and something that my family would have never even known about before, because like I said, they always thought about creativity or even the job sense of it in a very small box scale. So now I can be the person to tell them like, hey, you know that you can take this specific skill that you have, and then we can use it and put it over here on this side, and we can use it for all different types of categories. So,
And you have a little person watching you too.
yes, I do, my daughter, and which is crazy. She knows how to navigate and move through the app better than sometimes I do when I'm trying to like learn something. She's like, oh no, you just have to do it like this. So you can definitely see how just me taking that step to just go out there and just try it, even if I didn't know what I was doing, how it's helping me grow, how it's showing other family members around me like, okay, maybe we don't have to do it the traditional way. Maybe I can go, you know, and try to do something different. So I think it's very important that we're starting to have the conversations about decreasing that gap as to what is acceptable to apply for, what is acceptable to go for, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a nice lead into maybe one of our next questions.
Absolutely. So the first question I have for you ladies, according to a report by the World Economic Forum, it will take 5 generations for women to close the gender gap in the workplace. What should we be doing in schools, in society, or in business to make progress more quickly, not just in STEAM, but in general?
my first thought was, I think more motivation. I know in schools and in any type of career development or anything, we are always emphasizing to get the job or to apply for the job. But let's start having more conversations about, okay, now when you do get the job, we're automatically anticipating you getting the job, you succeeding at getting the job. But then what are the credentials that you have to start to research to do to advance within that job that you want? So I think more motivation and more conversation is something that we can at least start with.
What I want to add to this great point is, I mean, you know, there are multiple things that we can be doing, right? And I think one of the things that, you know, a lot of the families can start doing today is to provide their kids with more options of things that they exposed to when they're kids, because you never know what they're gonna, you know, what's gonna spark their interest. I really, you know, appreciate that, you know, when I was growing up, my parents, my parents, so my family are all engineers. We're all engineers. We all graduated from the same university, not planned, but we, you know, when I was growing up, I was exposed to, I have an older brother, so I was exposed to his old toys. I was playing with soldiers, and I had this cool metal constructor that I was playing with, like building like cool cranes. And then I also had my Barbies and cans and Legos, and I loved all those toys. And, you know, I had this variety, and it's just, I started leaning towards more like, you know, technology. It's just, I don't know if it's, you know, I inherited from my parents or because I've been exposed to all this, you know, technology as I was growing up. But, you know, I was reading the article saying that when girls learning about technology, they're actually mostly influenced by their fathers. So, you know, just having parents to, you know, don't think about the kids' future in just one direction, but actually giving kids the options to choose from and get them excited about different things. Because if we don't know about something, how can we know that we like to do it? So I think that's one of the things we can start doing.
I think that's a great point about fathers and just role models in general, and I think you touched upon that. Sometimes I think girls just need to see someone else do something that they might need, that they want to do in the future, right? It's difficult when we can't imagine what we might look like in that role. So.
And Michael, you touched on that a little bit too, just with representation in art and just getting, different cultures exposed to art and showcasing the art from around the world and because there is a lack of diversity in art too, and with not just women, but minorities. And so, that's something you touched on with your program, is that just seeing the representation there can be inspiring and motivational for young women, but young children in general. Like, I could see myself in this role because here's a Black artist and she did it, and these are all of her pictures in this gallery. Or I can be president because Barack Obama is president. And, so seeing that representation is so important in the workplace, at home, just having that exposure.
And I think something that we sort of try to push with our programs is the educational part of that too. So if the gallery shows up, we'll often have the artist who created it do a workshop with our students, so they know how it was made as well. So not just that they're also that they're seeing themselves, but also get into the tech behind it. And it's like sometimes you can't tell what's it's usually better if you can't see how it's made in certain design scenarios. But we try to bring all the inside and background out. And so it's just sort of like demystifying the technology. And if you have that done at an early age for broader audiences or diverse groups of young people, then I think that can make a difference. And one thing I just wanted to add also to the question around schools is like, because I was thinking if I wish I had Tech Arts for Girls when I was a kid or in my school, is that, some kids might not be tech oriented, or maybe their parents are engineers, or but what if you're into creative writing? And then what if a creative writing class was combined with, let's say, using Vine, like, sort of a software of like, I can't describe it right now, but it's a storytelling software that you use to create multiple storylines or scenarios. And so I'm just like, what if there was more of a combination of art and tech in school programs? And that's something we do outside of school that we provide, but be nice if there was more collaborations on how to make those things happen, because I know it's hard, and especially public school systems, it takes a long time to change. There's a lot of bureaucracy to change programs, but then collaborate with amazing local initiatives who are already doing that, and then not separate art and tech so much.
And I think that's part of the demystifying quality of it, right? Like, as soon as you bring technology into something where people are comfortable, then people let down their guard, right? So if you really love writing and now technology gets pushed into writing, it's almost like you embrace the technology aspect of it in a completely different way, because you're already doing something you love.
Right.
And I think
agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really interesting. Just a little story from our company. In the beginning, we can't do this anymore, but in the beginning, whenever anyone new started, we actually had them build a computer from scratch. And everyone was very nervous and thinking, I can't do that.
So intimidating.
Right, and it's very intimidating. I did definitely see that just a little bit more in our females, because they're maybe not used to thinking they could do that. But then at the end, knowing like, wow, I can actually do this, I can build a computer, that opened up their interest in all other areas of IT, right? So if you just get a taste of a little bit, like you learn what an app is, you learn how to, then now the whole world opens up. So I think that's a big part of what you were kind of getting at, that demystifying aspect to it.
And then making sure the A and the STEAM is in there, because then it's not just building what exists already, pushing the boundaries of what technology can do to reach different people and diversifying in multiple directions, I guess.
I think it's also adding to the topic of technology is kind of everywhere, and a lot of people feel that it's not, but it can be used in all facets of our life. So you totally have the skills to be in a STEM type of program, but you just don't know it yet because you don't recognize and you're not fully aware that technology is all around you and it can't be used all around you.
I have an interesting question. So it's always been STEM for so long, right? When did, and you might have a better idea of this, Michael, but when did the A get introduced, and maybe if you could go into a little bit more detail about why it's so important to add that A, like, why is art so important in STEAM?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when that changed, but I was happy to see that when, because I'm also new to Buffalo in the United States. So
it seems to be catching on, though, right? The STEAM part of it. So it's not, I'm seeing more and more industry news talking about STEAM and not just STEM.
I mean, I guess maybe going back to the finished product, when you see the exhibition, you see Black woman artist who's created an experimental exhibition with animation software with Blender, but in ways that are used that you couldn't imagine before. And she's talking about issues that you didn't connect to this technology before. So it's just like that. I think it helps. It's kind of like, when people say about humanities is really good for, you can't focus only on tech. The humanities is still important because it asks questions about society, asks questions about whose voices are heard, asks questions about what technologies serve whom and who they don't serve, and that's what Bak asks so much. So it's like there's so much. I think art helps. The A helps to make it, to just push the boundaries around it a bit more, and that brings in more voices or more possibilities. So I think that's why it's important. Yeah.
And art has always been a reflection of culture, right? So that's interesting too, because that's one of the earliest ways that people learned to communicate was by painting. And that's something that we can all, everybody interprets art in a different way, but when you see for example, a very pointed political piece, you know what it's conveying, if the sentiment around it. So it's interesting.